Hello, this is going to be our one-take tier list. This is going to be the first of a series of episodes that I'll be doing of just calculating how units performed for me in a specific Tinman run. It's kind of just a run of Fire Emblem based on how Shozo Kaga intended, kind of the way that you play, units die, you don't get them back, no rewinding, and nothing else can be done to keep using them. So yeah, enjoy. We're gonna start off with our bench tier. So for our axe bros at the very beginning, enjoy the Chrome cursor. For board, cord, and barst, we pretty much didn't use axe bros right away, just because again, fighters don't promote, and so I thought long term they wouldn't be that useful. But honestly, I will say this: despite the fact that they did end up in benched, if I knew ahead of time that without the falchion, I could have raised someone like Barst to use the Devil Axe, even with 9 uses, to do a little bit of damage to him, I probably would have. But in hindsight, it's 2020, so that is on me. But Beck, we didn't use him because ballisticians are bad. I don't even remember between Tomas, Gordon, and Sedgar, but we didn't use any of them just because they just weren't that good in my run through. Archers, for the most part, weren't really that good. Caesar, I didn't want to train him. Not good for the memes. Daros, he was just, again, gone the moment I could have used him. He just wasn't that good for me anymore. Dolphin Macellan, armors, not good, bad stats. Ellis, she came so close to the very end that, again, not good. I didn't want to use the Staff just because it wouldn't have been fun that way for my playthrough. But in yours, you probably would, and use her appropriately at the shrine in Chapter 24. I think this is Jake. I can tell because it's opposite to Beck. It was again, it was just funny seeing him trapped on the map on the wooden cavalry, where again, just not useful at all. Lorenz couldn't use him because somebody died important to report recruiting him, so that was rather unfortunate. Violent and Mathis, they even share the same portrait. Again, not useful at all. Because we didn't get Sheeta, we couldn't recruit Roger. I think this is, Rocher. Again, we didn't really use him either. Apparently, he's good in Mystery or FE3, but in our case, he was super slow. His growth rates are bad. Again, hindsight's 2020, because he's a cav. Honestly, if I put some investment on the chapters with access to the secret shop, probably would have used him, but that's my bad. Samson, we picked Aaron, so not really any point in talking about him. And again, Green Archer's bad. But apart from that, we'll start off with Meh tier. Astrum, he had some contributions toward the beginning, but otherwise he just did not. He just completely failed to impress me. Midia even more so. She was just good for recruiting. Astrum, and even then, she just incredibly disappointed me. Not that good. Wolf died in the line of battle, and he was somewhat alright-ish, but again, just not that good. So we'll move on to the next tier. Meh, pretty forgettable. Some utility, Sheeta, she was my first character to die. Very sad. Very unfortunate that happened. You can go check that out. I believe I clipped it into a short somewhere, but even if not. Sheeta, for the chapter that she was available, note to self, don't make her go into an arena because she dealt so little damage early on that's how she died. And Kaga didn't want you to pull out once you went in, so you can lay that at his feet in the classic Fire Emblem. But apart from that, again, she was alright when I first played her, but she failed to impress just because she died, but big movement, so that's something. Est was a little bit better. I mean, she was alive a few more chapters more than Sheeta, but she unfortunately also still died in my run. But she was actually doing pretty good for herself, and if she stayed alive longer, maybe should have contributed somewhat. On to Rickard, I believes. Yeah, I mean, if Julian died, he actually would have had some good utility. And on the last map, he helped for plugging up the stairway holes, so that was something. In case Julian died again, that would have been very helpful. But unfortunately, I couldn't use him to his fullest just because, again, just not too useful for my run. But he has moments. On the Kadeen map against Garneth, I had him there as an extra. I would have, but yeah, not that bad. Droke is actually pretty good. He helped me out for the early maps in regards to plugging up some holes, for being a wall. He served his time. He did his duty, but eventually he would just get outclassed by Bantu with his ridiculously high defense with his Firestone. I did not use bugs or glitches because that would have been very unfair. But Bantu was good enough. I mean, he helped recruit Tiki, which is something. But apart from that, he was just very. It was very situational, and eventually, like enemies that either dealt magic damage or had Worm Slayers, just not giving him a good time. So yeah, just alright-ish. But Riss was honestly really good when it comes to some utility. He's a good staff bot for the first couple maps of the game, and then otherwise fell off. Now on for units that were good. At the bottom of that, we're going to have Lind. She died at Wooden Cavalry for me. She was doing good enough damage. Her aura was powerful, but unfortunately I misplayed and got her killed. But she was doing pretty good, and if I got to get her to be a bishop, she probably would have contributed fairly well as a staff bot, but that's on me. Katria died like the same map I got her, where you have to fight King Geol when you finally get to Altea. And yeah, she got killed by some Pegasi, which was sad. But she was doing enough combat-wise, and honestly, she was good enough to the point where if she kept on rolling, she would have been extremely great as a combat unit. Rad was, I mean, you have to keep on. It's an unspoken rule that you pretty much have to use Rad. He's like Est, but foot-locked. Decent enough growths, and in time he can become a menace, but he just ended up being alright for me. So there's that. Jagan was surprisingly good. Oh wow, who would have thought a Jagan would actually be decent at a Fire Emblem game? But yeah, I mean, it's there for a reason, and for the times that he was there, even to the very last map, his movement, his ability to chip with javelins, even that early game usage of the Silverlance to quickly take out immediate threats. Jagan was a good MVP from start to finish, but he just eventually would get outclassed by units that, surprisingly enough, died before him. He actually ended up outliving my Christmas Kaz. We'll get into that story a little bit later. But yeah, Jagan actually ended up being quite good. Very surprised by that. Now, next up was Tiki. I mean, I fed her a whole bunch of stat boosters, and even then found out, thanks to some very helpful people in the Server of Arcanea Discord and my chatters, they managed to let me know that Tiki's actually pretty mid in regards to her Divine Stone. It's not even effective against Medius in FU1, and even if you capped out her strength, it still wouldn't be strong enough to even touch him with 1 damage. So she was good. She basically just became my ultimate tank, although she couldn't fly like certain units. So 6 move, decently tanky, decent damage. She needed stat growths. She needed like boosters and stuff. It was just not that good. So I honestly, like, for FE1, Tiki was meh. But I mean, she's not in meh tier, but for what she's able to do, she got crit by a swarm. That happened 3 times. It wasn't very fun. So yeah, Tiki was just alright. Aaron, basically just better Jagan. Is the best way to put it. Better combat and better trading for certain items when it comes to getting certain things across the map. And his combat was alright. One thing I noticed, like, the defense threshold for some units in FE1, if you're not above 10, you're like just worthless. And Aaron managed to crush that and then some. So he was alright to the very end. Maria, with her weapon level especially, I would say, for my run at least, she was pretty good. Even with speed wings and speed rings being given around to boost stats once we got the secret shop. My Maria ended up being pretty good. Staff access is just super, super useful. And for that, like, her and Lena were just warping all over the place. So in my case, I'd say Maria was actually quite good. It takes a bit to raise her. And honestly, the fact that you have to promote her and put her in the line of danger just to do so, unless you're able to find a good spot, she might have even ended up being lower on this list. But because I managed to find one good instance to do so, I got her level 10. She became a bishop, and she was useful all around. Harden. Oh, good lord, Harden. Oh, Harden. He died on Wooden Cavalry, unfortunately. I got ahead of myself, and he got taken out. But while he was still there, he was performing very good. High weapon level. That silver sword in his inventory, he puts to good use. And if he ended up sticking around longer, I mean, yeah, he would have played the world into eternal darkness. But you know what? It is a small price to pay for being a darn good unit, which he did end up achieving. Merrick, similarly, also died. I completely forget where. I think he got taken out by a silver bow sniper. And he wasn't even promoted, if memory serves me correct, which was, again, very regrettable because he was a massively useful unit with Excalibur, with his magic chip, and so I really did learn to appreciate him. Julian, next up. Yeah, Thief utility, opening chests, opening doors. Very nice. Very nice. Unfortunately, his weapon level ends up screwing him over just a bit. Even using a manual, he won't be able to use much else better than I think like a silver sword. Can't even use 11 sword. I can't even remember that off the top of my head. But either way, based on utility alone, Julian was fantastic. Very, very helpful. Very, very nice. Caster, if he could promote, he probably would have been ended up in always deploy or even at the top of very useful. But I found out, again, thanks to very helpful people online, not even me looking this up, that again, it's not even fighters or armored units that are screwed over. So many units just for some reason can't promote, and it is ridiculous. And Caster's among them. You'd think he'd be able to become a horseman, like Wolf and Sedgar, but no. Or Roger. But yeah, nah. He's just not able to. He's just stuck as a hunter with, 5 or 6 move. And he got to level 20. He almost had 19 strength on his own without any stat boosters. Quite impressive, I'll say that. But he could become my Parthia candidate, and that was very sad. But he was, honestly, even to the very end, very good when it came to taking out Draco Knights. The Macedon chapter especially. So for that, he was actually pretty good for my run all around. But the one who surprised me the most was, regrettably, I didn't want to use him, but I got proven wrong time and time again, that George is just really good. Even with that low strength, if you give him a, whatever it is, an energy drop or power amulet, actually ended up doing quite well for himself, fast enough. Silver Bow goes far, even just give him a bow gun for the squishier units to get some nice cheesy crits in. And I was genuinely learning to appreciate him. And to the very end, he was just absolutely able to just destroy units with Parthia, because he got that just enough weapon level to do some pretty good damage against the Mage Dragons and the Chapter 25 Cavs, or Paladins, and he was very good. So George actually ended up surprising me, and he definitely ended up being my, not really MVP, but most improved / the one character I probably changed my mind on the most. Goto, for the one chapter he was there for, his staff access was extremely useful. His offense actually managed to do me some favors for taking out some heroes as well once I got into Medis' room. So for that, I appreciate Goto for that. Again, Fortify, very nice. Thoron, very nice. Boa, oh man. Basically just Goto, but around longer. Just a little bit at least. And if Wendell died, he definitely would have been maybe a little bit higher, but he was useful once I realized that, oh god, Linda's dead. Merrick's dead. I haven't really got many options left when it comes to mages. That's actually part of the reason why I ended up using Maria. Honestly, if Maria died, I would have been probably forced to use someone like Riss as well, which would have been pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, Boa ended up being fairly useful with his staff access towards the very end of the game. Give him a speed wing. He's got 20 speed. He's not being doubled, likely at least. And his defense is high enough to hopefully not get one shot on most occasions. So yeah, Boa actually ended up being quite nice. Very doom-pilled. Very Arcanea is now screwed over because Harden becomes very sad in the next game. Now up to always deploy. Abel. He died, unfortunately, very early on for me, but he was growing very nicely, and honestly, if he kept on growing, he would have been just as good as someone like Kane, but regrettably, I misplayed. I was farming, and I ended up getting him killed in the line of sight, so he didn't really live out his full usefulness. But yeah, I'd say, like, they're not wrong. Them Christmas calves, they do hurt. They do hurt. Paula, I put a little bit above him just because she stuck around a little bit longer. I actually managed to promote her, and she was fantastic. I gave her a speed ring, and I think a power amulet as well. That was my water bottle. But she was doing really, really well for herself. Flyer, utility, she was able to have amazing combat. She was basically my Minerva 2.0, and then she also got killed in the Macedon chapter. That was very sad as well. But yeah, Pella, pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty much use her whenever you can. She's honestly one of the best games she's one of the best characters in the Arcanea games, period. Easily. Then up next we have Navarre, aka Discount McCallus, according to his profile. It's so funny that he uses his portrait like that. It's very goofy. But yeah, no, my Navarre ended up being pretty useful. Honestly, I kind of a little bit of a toss up between Ogma and Navarre because both end up contributing very similarly. I honestly don't even know what type of drugs I was on. I wasn't, by the way, for the final map stream because I deployed Rad, who was unpromoted instead of Navarre. Navarre was there on the benches. He could have contributed. He could have helped me a lot, avoid a lot more some headaches in that last run. But ultimately, I'd say that kind of interchangeably, they were just very reliable combat units. Could easily take out certain threats, generals, other calves, paladins, even go up against fellow Myrmidons, or even just be fast enough to take out mages before they could do major damage. Um, Super reliable, super helpful, and they could promote, which is nice to help them keep getting that experience in the late game. And yeah, I just say heroes are from the very beginning of the franchise just a staple that is always going to be there to help you. Super nice units. Zane, basically just the interesting first iteration of a refresh unit or dancer type unit, but in this case it's transformation. And I pretty much only had him transform to be either Kane or Minerva later. And for that, like, he was almost pretty much always deployed. He just helped be a second version of that unit, which was a miracle in itself to just give me another copy of them so that he could go be useful somewhere else. So for that reason alone, like, he was pretty much an always deploy after that. It's nice just having, oh, this one unit that's super duper broken. Here, just let me double that for you. Give it to the next guy. So yeah, Zane, amazing. Fantastic. Kane ended up basically being what Abel could have been, but towards the very end. My Kane died in a very, very funny way. I gave him the Star Sphere, and I gave him Gravitas, and I put him on a forest tile to help kill the Paladin charge on the first Mastodon map. And he got crit, and then proceeded to die. So I lost Gravitas and the Star Sphere, and by losing the Star Sphere, I lost Starlight, and by losing Starlight, I also lost Falchion. So yeah, that was a fun little group of shenanigans that happened that totally didn't lead me to having egg in my face. But that being aside, Kane was amazing. He was so useful, reliable, getting objectives, killing thieves before they got to villages, backing up Marth or Jagan as well. Kane was, honestly, he could have been up here with Minerva if he ended up surviving, but unfortunately he died. So that's unfortunate pain for me to learn for the future. But yeah, Christmas Calves, fantastic. Marth is really good in FE1. He was very reliable, even if he did end a couple of my runs prematurely. Even with that being said, I still appreciate him. I gave him the boots. He had 11 move towards the end of the game, and he was the one to help take down Medius. So for that alone, with almost 20 strength, I think mine had 19, with Mercurius, he, along with the Geosphere, a little bit of help from that, managed to take him down without the Falchion. And his combat was impressive. A little bit low on the defense side of things. Could have been patched up with the Draco Shield. But apart from that, Marth was always reliable. Wendell, for some reason, I did not, in fact, deploy him for the final map. I don't know why I didn't do that. Again, no drugs were used, but for some reason, I totally forgot Wendell and Navarre. And Wendell was amazing. Amazing. Be it with tome usage for staff utility. He was just a better Merrick when he was there and around, and even managed to outlive his pupil, sadly enough. And for that alone, I am so thankful for the fact that I was able to get Wendell without little troubles. But yeah, amazing, and always use him, whether you're playing FE1 or the other Arcanine games like Shadow Dragon for the DS. But yeah, after that, Lena? Oh, one word, warp. It's a joke that's stated to hell and back, and you know what? They're right. Warp shenanigans, break the game. I was able to cheese Camus, and what can I say that hasn't already been said? Lena and her staff utility were super useful from start to finish, and if you choose not to use her, you are actively nerfing yourself, or you want to challenge yourself even further. But yeah, Lena, amazing. Always use her. Never undeploy her, maybe unless like you don't want to use warp. But apart from that, if you're not, you're a dum dum, and you should feel bad because you are bad at this game. But yeah, unlike me, who's never made any mistakes in his life, especially when it comes to Fire Emblem, pretty much always use Lena when you have the chance. But yeah, at the very tippy top, we have Minerva. Minerva single-handedly pretty much carried my run towards the second half. Flyer, decent combat, give her the speed ring that you get on her initial joining chapter. Power armament will also help her out, and you can get those in the secret shop later on. Decent enough defense. I even gave her the talisman so that mages avoided her, so she had an easier time. Minerva is cracked, and at least that's how she ended up in my run. And if you choose to play FE1, in the other game, she is okay. But as far as I'm concerned, for the original game, Minerva is bar none one of the best units to use. And yeah, that pretty much confirms things for our tier list after finally beating our one take tier list. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a great day. Play FE1, however you can. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And that'll pretty much be it from me. Have a great night, all. Please take care. Thank you for tuning for the Tinman stream, and looking forward to where the future goes.